want to talk here about this. Like, there's a mindset out here where it's very racist. It's pure racist doctrines. All right. For instance, the KKK says, all right, if you are basically uh, let's say you're 80% white, but let's say you're a fifth or a quarter black, Mexican, Indian, Chinese, Middle Eastern. You're basically all the N word. Then, uh, that's a KKK doctrine. Uh, I mean, this goes into look. That is Willie Lynchry when you got the pure blood doctrines and the half breed doctrines and the other the synthesis antithesis thesis type of mindset as well. This is another form of it. It's called Willie Lynch. Um, this is a form of Willie Lynchry, and it's very ignorant. And I mean, it's not just the KKK that does it. I see these uh I see some, like, they're so pro black that they're anti everything else. I mean, they won't even. It's like they look at an Indian dude, they'd be like, "Oh, that's a white dude." Look at a Mexican, "Oh, he's a white dude." If you ain't black, you're white. And then the white people would be like, "Well, if you ain't white, you're black." So I mean, it goes two ways, but these people play the same game back and forth with each other. And it's like, for instance, man, you can look at this dude. His name is Fuji, and he's like the first emperor of China. And you read the story of Enoch, where he became like, he was the emperor in a way by consent. He didn't. It's like he was. It was like everyone liked him because he knew things that no one else knew. And as the more stuff he learned, the less he came around people until he just flew off into the sky one day. And people were like, "No, don't go!" And they tried to chase him into the sky. And he's like, "Hey, where I'm going, you guys can't follow. This is for me." You know what I'm saying? I'm just, he had to be the one, because listen, someone who learns that much stuff, they just got to be taken out of here, because it's almost like it'd be, they're so dang powerful, you know what I'm saying, that they can't go on a normal life like the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? How we can stumble and learn through things. They knew too much, so they just had to be taken up on out of here. Enoch, you can look into that. Was Enoch Fuji that taught? Uh, Not only did the fallen angels teach man things, but they taught Enoch these things, and they were written in books, and they were talked about. And there was a time when mankind understood things different, more than we were led on to believe. If you were to believe science, they'd say there were a bunch of Neanderthals and animal skins and loincloths going to each other. But if you study the ancient history texts, because I mean, as old as these books are, these weren't ignorant people at all. And even if they were written hundreds, even 1,000 years after the events happened, the events that they're talking about, they would have described the people as, they were very animal like, monkey like, and they never do that. It's like they're people like us. Actually, it does say, if you follow the biblical narrative, that in the beginning people lived uh for hundreds of years. And once again, you got that Chinese the legend of the immortals. Well, but the immortals ain't around no more, so they must not live forever. But it would account for people like Noah, who lived for like 600 years. You know what I'm saying? And his children, they probably lived for 200 years. And then their children probably lived for 120. And then they were capped off after that. That's as long as they could live after that, because a copy of 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 a copy loses its, it gets sloppier and sloppier. Each copy of a copy gets a little bit more sloppy, to the point where it's about capped off. It couldn't get no more. It's only as clear as it's gonna look. You know what I'm because you don't have the original copy anymore. It's disintegrated. Basically. I don't know, man. It's crazy stuff. But I noticed this type of this stuff, that uh these contentions, man, and it's like, nowhere in the Bible does it mention race. So I mean, it's like people, because their mindset is that they're born into a racist type of way of thinking. When they read a certain text, they apply it racist because that's the way they think. Because it's not the way it's stated in the book. It's just the way you perceive it because you're kind of ignorant of things. You can look at I mean, to just say that the people in the Bible they were just black people. I mean, I think I don't think that that's accurate. I think there are black people in the 12 tribes, but I think there's also other colored people like olive colored skin people, red, brown, yellow, whitish, black. I think they're all accounted for in there, and it says they're scattered to the four corners of the earth. You can't find black people scattered to the four corners of the earth. I mean, they are scattered out there, but look, they're not scattered to the four corners of the earth. You know what I'm saying? So to assume that it only is speaking on black people, I think that's or for on the flip, there is the mainstream churchianity crowd does flip it and say they white it out for real, but by blacking it out is just as bad as whiting it out. My opinion, man. That's from my understanding. My grandmother being full-blooded Ojibwa, and she tells me that she believed in God, the Bible, but then she also told me about, well, the Indians believed in God too. It was called the Great Spirit. It was one guy, one thing. Uh, and then you look at numbers, and it almost uses the same name verbatim. And once again, it's also says in Enoch, the Lord of Spirits. That's why I always say the Indians' way of looking at the supernatural is very Enochian, because Enoch knew that there were spirits and that there was watchers and angels and other things, and the Indians were aware of this for some reason. Well, it says they came from a great flood, so in a way, the Indians in their own historical language, it says that we came from a great flood. So in a way, without saying, it's saying we came from Noah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like people be like, why do you believe in that? That white man's false religion. Well, when the Indian religion confirms a lot of points of the biblical narrative, I'm not really. It's like, in some cases, the only thing the Indians were missing was the coming of the Son of God, man, Jesus. That's it. But even in their lore, it says there's an interceding spirit, and they call him the uncle. So in a way, they seen him as God's brother in a way, like, or they called him uncle. So if God is father and this guy is uncle, you know what I'm saying? It's not a big jump to think, well, are they talking about Jesus before he was Jesus? Like when in Daniel, when they said there's a fourth man in the fire and he's like unto the Son of God. Is this one of these type of things? Like even King David, he says, do you know the name of God's son? I think he asks in one of the Psalms, do you know that God has a son? Or maybe it was Solomon, but these guys were aware of it, but this was before Christ. So it's like there's references of him throughout all the scripture that he was to come. Like he's almost speaking to people, speaking about himself coming. You know what I'm saying? But when he was in a spiritual body, and he needed a physical human body to inhabit, and I guess, it comes at a time. There's so many generations that need to pass before certain things are either done or even brought back into remembrance. It's just Rob Skiba did a good little point about how every guy's name, the first the patriarchs in the Bible, the first in Genesis, if you add them all up in order and read their names off, each name means something, and it's like if you put all their names in order and read it in a sentence, it almost tells another story, like it's supernatural. It's crazy stuff, man, but this is the type of stuff, once again, I like to look at. Trey Smith made a video about Noah, and it showed in Egypt how there was petroglyphs or hieroglyphics, and they showed the slaves of Egypt, and there was a red one, there was a black one, there was a yellow one, there was a brownish looking one, and there was one that was white. So they accounted for all your ethnic genetic types way back when Egypt wasn't far after the Tower of Babel. You know what I'm saying? So you can look at it that way. And whoever left Egypt would not be left there now. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of strange. It's hard to tell though. Who knows if the pharaohs weren't white or if they were black? We don't really know. You look at Akhenaten though; he does favor kind of a black person, and they look almost like your hardcore African look. Some of those Africans they got like very long looking limbs, and their head is kind of almost looks elongated. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny or mean or cut anyone down, but some those African tribes they do look like aliens, man. I mean, I'm not trying to be jive or bogus to them. I'm not sure if it just appears that way, like you're gray. Imagine if you mixed a gray with a human being, and they take on some of those features. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just weird sometimes, not in all cases, but I don't know, man. Maybe that's Sumerian Anunnaki interventions, or you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not sure, but you can look into Kemet and how Kemet was a knockoff of Egypt, and it was all the pantheon of the Greek gods and the Egyptian gods and the Babylonian gods. They're all the same gods. It's just each culture and ethnic group has a different language, so they name the same gods a different name, but it's the same guy. It's just the language is different. So I mean, people got to look into this stuff. And whoa, damn it. I don't know, man. It's just you got to look into that, man. This is the whole mystery. The mystery of iniquity and how it doth work already, and it was at work already. But look, it's also, you know, it's like a retelling of the same story. They're still doing it now with CERN. You look at CERN; it's got Kali dancing and shit on the logo. You look at how they got Abraham Lincoln sitting in Zeus's seat. You got George Washington sitting in Zeus's seat. They got Benjamin Franklin portrayed as a god. You know, I mean, they make a Buddha of all these guys as well. So, I mean, these are retellings of the same shizzle as Greece and Egypt and Kemet. So, and in the Mayans, same thing. It's like, man, some ethnic groups need to get off their high horse. You know what I'm saying? And stop being so race driven in their interpretations, man. You know, it's blinding you. Then nowhere have I ever seen anything mentioned about racist racial doctrines. By the color of thy skin shall thou be saved. That's how thou will note if y'all are thems, is by the color of y'all skins. I don't think so, man. I think all minorities are really lynched, and we've all been disempowered, disenfranchised, had our land stolen, and even the whites do it to themselves too. Your European way of imperialism, and colonialism, they do it to themselves too. So I mean, just look, be fair. You know what I'm saying? God requires mercy. You know what I'm saying? That we have mercy on these people. And how do you do that? By don't let them bait you into a racist way of thinking, because you become the KKK. You know what I'm saying? You become, black nationalist movement. You know what I'm saying? Socialist, communist, black nationalist movement. And all that stuff just leads to the same thing, totalitarianism. It's just, listen, even if you were the guy on bottom, would you want to assume the rule of the oppressor and do that to people now? Would you want to do that? Is that how you show them how it's done? By being worse than them? Is that how you win? You know what I'm saying? Or must we seek out a different solution? You know what I'm saying? There's got to be a better way than that. That ethnos against ethnos, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.